So wonderful. Thank you all for joining us. We've got some repeats, which is always good to see, and some brand new faces, which is lovely. So, and we already know one person out there is making gnocchi at home. So hopefully your lunch hours are going well. Um, so let's see, I will start with our message of this is being recorded. So remember that as you hang out. And if we ask you to mute while we do the starting bit where Ben's going to talk and he's going to tell us about his space and he's going to show some of his work. And as long as there's not lots of background noise, that's fine, right? If you haven't been to one of these before, they're slightly informal in that we started doing these because we wanted to reach out. We wanted to see what everyone was doing. We wanted to specifically invite some of our friends to be co-hosts and guests to tell us what they're up to, and then to also allow it to be a nice conversation. So if there's lots of background noise, I'll secretly mute you on the side, so don't be surprised. And then later on, Ben might lead us just in some chatting, and then please feel free to unmute. So let's see, Ben Blount is in Evanston, Chicago. So you're about, what, 3 hours down the Lake Michigan coast from us?
That sounds right.
And he's a friend of the museum. We're so glad to talk with you today. Let's see, in 2017, you were a resident at the museum through a Chicago residency called Transit, which Meredith Diamond ran, who we spoke to last week.
Yep.
And you were 2 weeks in the studio. You did really amazing work that was thought-provoking and thoughtful. And then you did a workshop that also talked about using your voice to make change. And then, and I love that workshop. In fact, we need to get you up to Hamilton again.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was really good. We had a lot of locals in that class, which was great. And you're a graphic designer and letterpress printer, but I will let you take it over and tell us more about you. So thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm Ben Blount. I am a printer and designer. So I'm in Evanston, which is, if you don't know, the city just north of Chicago. It's where Northwestern University is. So my day job, I work in advertising as an art director, and then I also print. And today I'm at my studio. I've got a storefront studio in Evanston. I've been here, I guess it was a year last January, so maybe getting close to 2 years, year and a half. And so, yeah, I work kind of a 9 to 5 and print when I can. So usually in the evenings or on the weekends. And yeah, I will show you around my studio, and it's just mine. And so it's nice to have a secondary location to go to during all this, so I can walk here in less than 10 minutes from my house, which is really nice for my apartment. And so I've been trying to spend a lot of time here just to kind of, get a break from the family and get some sunshine and get a chance to do more printing than I'm usually able to do. I'm gonna start out by giving you a little tour of this shop, and then I'll show you some work, stuff I've been working on lately, and go from there. So I will slowly pick you up, and I'll start at the front door just to show you. So it's a storefront, but it's also in a neighborhood. So there's, it's more residential than anything else. So it's a sunny day in Evanston. So this is the front of my studio. Let me turn it to speaker view so I can see what you're seeing. Pin myself, okay. So this is the front of the studio. And this building is cool because there's a bunch of artists, so my next door neighbors are also printmakers. There's a photographer at the end of the building. There's a woman who does makes doll houses for a living. And so across the street, it's just houses. But there's a large concentration of artists in our neighborhood. So it's kind of becoming the artsy neighborhood in Evanston. So my studio is called Make.
Hmm.
Got some posters from some friends of ours at the door. Little Globe and Jen Farrow. And then, so this is the studio. This back wall. Going too fast, or it's okay?
Okay for me.
Yeah. So the back wall is where I've got all my type posters from people probably on this call. People always come in and admire the wall, like, oh my God, I love your work, it's so great. I'm like, yeah, none of that's my work. But it's good to show, for me, inspiring to see what other people are doing. And when people come to visit, it's good to show what all the different things that people do with letterpress, because stylistically, a lot of this is different than what I do. And so it's cool to show people laser cutting and layering and illustrative stuff and yeah, different techniques and the fluorescent inks and just different takes on the things that I do. Swinging around. There's furniture. There's a bunch of type in here too, a bunch of galleys with type on it. Most of that is not mine. Eileen Madden, who used to have a letterpress shop in Evanston, she just closed her shop recently, so I am kind of holding it for her. So she's allowing me to use her type for now while she's not using it. There's some stuff back there I just use for storage. This table is kind of my office, so I usually come here to do work as well. So I'll get up in the morning, walk to the studio, and play around in the print shop, print something for a few hours before I have to get on the laptop to do my day job from 9 to 5. And it's just a way to kind of have a separate workspace and to get like some extra printing in. Then I've got this back wall that's pretty empty that I can use for shows and put stuff up. And that's the space. It's kind of a big square. I've got a couch over here to entice my 15-year-old daughter to come and hang out with me sometimes and make it more comfortable when people come for a visit. But yeah, unless I'm open for some kind of open house or something, it's basically me in here. So this was my first press, this sign press. I got this sign press and maybe and 2 of these cabinets of type. My first type purchases. There's a magic shop in Chicago that was closing down. They had this small storefront, but like 10,000 square feet of space, and they just had presses and type and an AB Dick and a paper cutter and all this stuff. And they were moving and downsizing to a new place. And a friend of mine who was helping them clean out saw the letterpress stuff and asked me about it. So I went in there and bought that sign press and a bunch of this type and like a shoebox full of raglet. And so that was my my first press. And then, so I was in my basement printing for a few years, just in the storage room in my basement, in my apartment. And then last January, I got this press. So it's a Vandercook 4. And I was mentioning my friend Eileen, so she used to have a letterpress shop in Evanston, actually in the space next door to me where my neighbors are. She moved to Chicago, eventually sold the business, and this press came to me. And I do know a little bit about the history of this press. So this used to be Amos Kennedy's press. He said he bought this in 1989 for $50, which is ridiculous, but sounds like Amos. He has too many presses. And he gave it to a woman named Barbara Corbell who needed it. She was a teacher. And she gave it to a student of hers, Marty Sears, who's a friend of mine that I went to grad school with in Chicago. And then it went in Eileen's shop, and Eileen was using it for her business for several years. But when her shop closed, Marty didn't really have a space for it. She didn't really want to find a space for it, and she had been printing for years. And so she offered it to me. And for this press, the idea is that it's not to be sold. Amos gave it to his friend because he needed it. She gave it to Marty because Marty needed it, and so Marty gifted it to me. And so when I get rid of it, which is never, it's not supposed to be sold, it's supposed to be given. So I feel like this is such a gift that I even have this press. So yeah, it's a 4 from, I think 1946 maybe. And then later I bought type a few. So when I bought the press for Marty, I also bought all of her type, and then bought more type from a friend of ours. So in 3 big chunks, I kind of got most of my type. I've got, I use mostly wood if anyone has seen my work. I don't do a lot of, it's kind of small typesetting, but this is all wood. And then these 3 are metal. This first cabinet is bigger stuff that I would use more frequently. And then the smaller stuff that I basically use for just colophons mostly is in that last cabinet. I did want to, so I was going to show you a few things.
While you're talking about wood type, Meredith wants to know how many sizes of Gothic you have.
Yeah, I've got 8 line and 12 lines what I use most often. This is, my biggest is a 36 line. I've got a 24 line. I've got a little bit of condensed stuff, 15. I got some stymie. I do have this one that I don't know what it is, and maybe if I hold it up, someone will be like, oh yeah, I know what that is. See what the letters are. I don't have a lot of it, but it's,
Ooh, what is that?
it's really funky, and it's got lowercase. Like, check out these. Ooh, that M. Can you see that?
Could you send us a photo later and I can ask? We could, that M is nuts.
That's so cool.
I was just setting the uppercase version of that smaller this morning,
Really?
but I don't have the lowercase, and it's not Broadway.
Yeah. And
Thanks,
the
Jason.
size and the L. There's a light on these things.
We can all name what it isn't. Oh, that K.
Ain't
That's
cool?
not brush script either.
No, it's not broad.
Elbow.
I'm not sure what it is.
I feel like I've seen this recently. That K is it's a kicker.
Yeah.
And where is Rick Von Holt when you need Rick Von
And
Holt
look at
to
this
identify that?
decoration with the
Ooh.
like an oval at the bottom.
So nice.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, it's like 12 line. The label says 12 line fancy because I don't know what else to call it.
Can you show
have
the top of that? Does it have a nick in it?
Oh. We also have fancies at the museum, which I love. Oh yeah, it does have a nick.
That's that type that clamps into those, what are those presses called? That's kind of like 1920s, 1930s. There's a special press that was clamped into.
Top
You can
and
set up
bottom.
panels of it.
Is it the Linoscribe press?
Yes.
But usually those are kind of on the back, aren't they?
No, this was a rotary press, but not
Oh, okay.
like the ones with the curved type.
Okay.
That's different.
Yeah, so
We have some at Tribune. I'm trying to remember what the manufacturer's name is.
So when I was looking for stuff to show you, I was going to just show you kind of what I've been working on lately, but I also found the first print I printed on my first press, which is the sign press, sitting around. Actually, I haven't, it's not really done, so I haven't shown anybody, but I figured I'd show you guys. So I printed this. So it says thanks. So at the time, this was, I got this in 17 or 16 or something. And so it's kind of a thank you. At this point, I was thinking my 3 biggest kind of influences in printing are Audrey Neffenegger, who was my professor in grad school, so she taught me how to print. Amos came for a workshop and really kind of changed some of my thinking about printing. And then April Sheridan, who we probably all know and love. We went to grad school together, and she's just been a huge kind of supporter, and she's just like a connector. She gets people together, and she was the first person who, when I came to Hamilton for the first time in 2012 for Ways Goose, I came with her. So, and all their names start with A, so I thought that was cool. What was I gonna do? So, like I said, since Corona, I've been in the studio more than I usually am, and making more work. And so I want to show you what I've been working on. A lot of it is just thinking about the disconnect and everyone being separate, and like kind of how to connect people. Also, in my neighborhood, a lot of the people in the houses are putting up signs in their windows and everything will be okay. And so you saw a little bit outside and it's on the window, but I did these series of posters. Keep your distance, enjoy your family, share your skills, show your kindness, love your neighbor, thank your helpers. Kind of as my addition to some signage on the window. And so I made maybe addition 25 or 30 of those, and we're selling them here and using the proceeds to help support people in town. Kind of, there's a lot of people helping, like seniors get fed, and people don't have access to food get fed. So I use the money I raised to give and support them. So that was the first piece I did. The other thing that's changed is my routine is so different, like being in the studio all the time. And, from the press, I'm looking out the window and people are walking by. I'm trying to figure out what space to be. Yeah. And so, people are calling their spouses and their kids, their coworkers, because they're in the house with them now. And so I'm seeing this, everyone's on a new routine. So people are jogging by all the time. In the morning, I see some parents have their kids out running at 8 a.m. every morning. People go by the window and wave and peek in and see what I'm doing. And there was this one family that kept coming by. It was a mom and two kids. And so they'd wave by the window, and they'd come every day. And then pretty soon we'd go up to the window and kind of talk to each other and have a conversation. So so one time I decided to give him something. So I made a little bookmark and passed it to him through the slot, just as hey, I see you. And then the next week he came by and he made me a bookmark to match mine. And his name is Liam. And it was funny, he was saying, when art is the right way, my name is upside down. And when my name is the right way, art is upside down. I was like, okay, that's cool.
That's lovely.
And, yeah.
It's very, very cute.
And so, and they come by every day. So he's 5 and he's got a sister, Virginia, who's 1.5, and she's in the stroller. And so I made a sign and put it in my window for the next time they come by. And I put it kind of at 5-year-old height, so that a little welcome sign.
Cute.
It was just a way to kind of get a connection to these people who I've never seen before because our schedules didn't connect.
Sweet.
So, yeah, so now it's a thing where they come and say hello. And then he made me a drawing. It's a cockroach. He's into disgusting bugs for some reason. And so I drew him a picture of a bug. I was going to print something, but I just didn't have time to set up the press to print him something. So I answered with a bug. And so I'm waiting for the next kind of part of his conversation. So that's been one kind of connecting thing, saying hello to the people that walk by. The other thing I did was, again, thinking about this idea of connection and, was let's get through this together and seeing that we're all neighbors. Just trying to get that's better. So as opposed to putting something on the window, I wanted to give something to people. I like the idea of giving something to Liam, and how can I do that on a larger scale? So I just finished these and haven't started giving them out yet, but I printed this print. We will get this through this together. After all, we're neighbors. And then the bottom, it says, print it with love from your neighbor at 1123 Florence. And so I've printed like 250 of these. And so the idea is I'm gonna give one to all of my neighbors with a block radius around from the studio, just as a way to kind of say hello and acknowledge our connection, that we're all connected, and also have some with my home address on the bottom instead. So I'm gonna go up like from our main street to the next main street and give prints to those neighbors, just kind of as a form of solidarity and say like, yeah, I know that you're struggling too. I know you're stuck in the house too. And like, maybe we will, wave each other next time. Maybe we'll say hello, because people are saying hello a lot more than usual. I get people ignoring my hellos a lot just walking down the street. And so, and now it's kind of surprising. What do you say? And so now it's surprising. People are so quick to like make eye contact and say hello. It's almost disarming. I'm like, oh, people are speaking to me. And so maybe this is a little leaf that could maybe keep that going. And hopefully we don't forget that as soon as we're out again, and remember that people are scary and you shouldn't talk to other people. So yeah, so I wrote a little card that kind of says, that's going to be included with it, that says what this is about and what I'm planning to do and my name. So I'll, probably this weekend, if the weather's nice, I'll package these up and pass these out to all my neighbors. Let's see. The last kind of COVID-related one I did, this is a buddy of mine had this idea. And some of them are still wet. I'm putting tons of ink on them, but just how the days are kind of running together. So it's Sunday, and then printing Monday on top of that, Tuesday on top of that, Wednesday, Thursday. So all 7 days a week, we're on top of each other. So it's going to be called Blur's Day. So I just finished printing these, and that, I don't know if you saw on Instagram, I did some prints that just stuck together. Usually I just stack and stack and stack, and I'm like, oh, you can't do 5 layers of ink and stack them on top of each other. You know, actually let them dry in between.
There is that.
So, yeah, so I just did those, the Blur's Day, and I don't know what's next, but I try to come in every day and do something, either start on a new print or, clean up, or I worked a little bit on old projects. Like I started old projects with students at Lawrence University right before Ways Goose last year. So I worked a little bit on that, but I don't know, I just feel like the world we live in, it seems hard to ignore and talk about that. And so kind of that's where my head has been lately. Oh, I do have and so I made the Blur's Day prints, but I also pulled the ones I showed you. I pulled a few out to make a book so you could see them actually build. So this might be the Blur's Day cover once these things eventually dry.
I do love that about your work, Ben, is it's always so thoughtful. Before COVID, during COVID, you're always thinking bigger picture and community and how we interact, and I think that's lovely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, before you guys got on, Stephanie and I were talking about, I did this print for New Impressions, and I was so excited about it because typically my work is more kind of content oriented versus process. And so, yeah, it's more executing these ideas. Not that I can't print, but versus technical, beautiful, absolutely perfect printing. Throw some silver in it to get it dry. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I could, I don't know, any questions, or we could start chatting. Those are things I've done recently, but that's kind of, oh, I was gonna show one thing I was thinking about yesterday. When Erin was doing her presentation and talking about Pressing On, she forgot that I was also in the Pressing On movie. I don't know, like I was, pretty big role in there. I don't know how she skipped over it, but I'm going to share
Yeah.
my screen.
Cameo was significant. I do sincerely apologize.
So I don't know if you guys can see that, but there's me, right? Like I get right in the middle of the screen, pretty prominent. I'll blow it up a little bit if you can't see it. It's almost, there's like the last 8 minutes of the film is where I finally make my appearance. So if you go to 1 hour, 32 minutes and 35 seconds, that's where I show up. I'm in there for a solid 3 seconds. So I'm a part of a larger story here.
Are you officially an extra?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
They had the APA Ways Goose in Chicago just so they could get pressing on extras.
Did you sign a waiver?
I did.
It was such a.
Everyone signed the waivers.
They were very buttoned up, even for the B-roll.
Yeah, a greedy screen hound. Just whatever, dude.
Yeah.
You didn't finish the story about the piece for New Impressions. I really want. Can you share your screen and show the movie?
Oh yeah. Let me find it real quick.
I only say that because I include this in my slides when I share work of other people who are doing interesting things, and it really is kind of moving to see work done at this level in this way. And you know, I don't have to tell you how much I love you, man.
Aw, you're the best.
Yeah, it's a really stunning process. I love it.
So, for those of you who don't know, for New Impressions, I had this idea of doing something that really emphasizes process. And so I made a print using a single 8-line letter I and built all of the type out of this one single I. So I print it, move it, print it again, move it, print it again to build the type. Let me share my screen again.
I can just imagine Daffy judging the competition and being like, "What the hell is this?"
Can you guys see the little movie? Can you see the screen?
Mhm.
Okay. So, and I took a picture so you can see an animated GIF of how it builds. So each sheet of paper went through the press 62 times
Whoa.
to build this phrase. It was all the same I, just moved around to build it. I was telling Stephanie earlier that at first I was like, if I'm gonna do all this work, I'm gonna make like 40 or 50 copies of this thing. So I start printing and printing and printing, and pretty soon, like, 50 copies 62 times. Like, I just kept on abandoning. So I would print like the first 60, then I was like, okay, I'm gonna take 10 out. And then I was like, oh, I'll have 50. And then I took 10 more out. And then so I have a bunch with that just says the. I have a bunch with just the crossbar of the T. So I ended up with 10. 10 solid ones that were complete. But yeah, that was a fun and trying piece to do, because I didn't wait till the last minute, but it was pretty compact, like long weekend, week and a half of printing.
It's great.
How many hours about, Ben, did it take you?
I don't know, because like I said, usually I print in the evening, like after dinner, after the family's kind of going to bed. So I'll print from like 9 to 1 or 10 to midnight or something on the weekdays, and then on the weekend I can get in Saturday and really like go to town and do a lot of printing. I'll show you the print too. But yeah, I know one solid, like to get it finished, I did a really solid weekend of printing, and it came out pretty nice. So there's transparency in the ink so that you could see a little bit of the process and how it was built.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful.
Thanks. yeah, that was a fun one that, it's never going to happen again. And so it was cool that,
Never know.
cool that I did it.
You might do 240 impressions on a sheet again.
You need a
Yeah.
couple more eyes.
Yeah.
Well, then the answer wouldn't be hard work, Jason.
Whatever.
Yeah. And so it was speaking to the process itself, but also just, because, people will see Instagram and not necessarily know I have another job, or just everyone knows who's printing. Like you're not just printing, you're doing other stuff. You're running a business, or you've got a job, or you're teaching too. And so people that aren't necessarily doing that, like, oh wow, that's so cool. How do you find time to do that? Aren't you tired after work? And it's like, yeah, but this is what I do, and so it's hard work. And so people kind of outside of printers like us, or people who are juggling 2 or 3 things that they're into, just talking about that one too.
How is everyone doing out there? Is anyone else printing COVID related or hard work prints?
I have a lot of different things happening right now where I'm printing multiple prints consecutively, and I don't necessarily have a destination for all of them, but this is the time of year when at the School of Visual Concepts we work on our Children's Hospital broadsides with Seattle Children's Hospital and Seattle Arts and Lectures Writers in the Schools. And those are pretty weighty works, so it's nice to have the time now to play alongside handling all of the emotions that go with these poems from these children. So it's kind of cool because some of it's, like I said, I don't know where it's gonna go, but I'm trying to get out into my studio each day and get inky for a little bit. And so I've been doing more Vandercook work lately, gearing up to get back on the Platen press again. So Vandercook, like I feel like I can just play a little bit more, be more spontaneous in short bursts, whereas the Colts Armory, it takes 30 minutes to clean up the press and change an ink color. So there's commitment. And I'm embracing the spontaneity right now.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a good time to just play.
Yeah, I've been proofing wood type. Ooh. I proofed, not all, but a lot of my 8-line type because it's all the same. So I just set it up and proofed a whole bunch of stuff.
Nice.
They look great.
Pretty.
That's stunning type, and I love your specimens.
Yeah. I'm so lucky to have it. This is Hamilton. Ooh. It's the stamped stuff, so it's really shallow.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not sure.
That's gorgeous.
I have something like that.
Yeah,
That's
so
an Egyptian, I think.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. A lot of them I don't know what they are. I think this one is from Heber Wells, and I don't have a catalog, so I don't know what it's called. But I want to eventually proof all my wood type, and that's going to be, a multi-year project. But trying to go through, and I'm digitizing some of these too. So we're going to have some fonts that people can download and type out and pretend that you have all the cool wood type too.
Ooh,
cool.
So
I don't own a press, but I've been really enjoying using some of the fonts that P22 and you offer, both digitally and wood. And I've wanted to buy arts, and because we've been in Chicago, we're supposed to be wearing masks out, and you see a lot of people with masks and a lot of people without masks. So I came up with a poster that was kind of humorous, and I sent it to my alderman. And so then I did Spanish and Polish versions, and it was wonderful because arts has all those diacritical marks. So you actually can build, Z's with dots above them and all the things you need for Polish. And the next one I want to work with is Lustig Elements. But anyway, the COVID mask one is on my Instagram, so you can see it there.
I've seen it and I quite like it.
Oh,
I think those are great.
Well, I like that they have some humor in them, so it doesn't make it too heavy for people, hopefully. So, great fun.
Yes, Sizemore, what have you been printing? You have a great project.
Oh, you're so kind.
I've been working on a social media snail mail project. So I'm making cards like this. They're like a social media post. So I'm getting people on social media to send the post, and then, printed the backside. So I'm requesting the post from social media, and then people that send them to me, then I mail them the cards so that they can send them out to whoever. It's been pretty satisfying to see, the reaction. I'm, really pleased, like people seem interested. And I'd been thinking about this project before. I don't know, I've had the plates sitting around for the backside for a long time. And, so I was like, when am I going to do this? And it never was the right time. And so now it seems like the right time, but it's really interesting because it's become much more about COVID than I had expected, because that's what people are thinking about, and that's what they want to talk about. So that was kind of surprising, but it's I think I'm 30 days in right now, so I'm doing one a day, and it feels really good to be having something to work on every day that is reaching the community in some way. And then UC Davis Library reached out, and I was surprised, I guess they have like an archive collection that they're putting together for the COVID period. So they wanted to buy a set of the whole project. So I was like really flattered that was of interest to them.
Nice.
Well, and
I
I
look
will.
forward to seeing them every day.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm, for the most part, it's, it's hard, but it's kind of been good, like even with my family, like I'm like, okay, I got to go print my card today. See ya.
I shared your Instagram in the chat so people can see it.
Oh, okay, cool.
It is a really great project. And I will say we are putting together a COVID show. Jim is just working out the details. So when we put it online, you can get the information there. You don't have to ask as many questions. So I'll let you guys know in one of these, and we'll put it on our Instagram and Facebook, that we're going to have a call for entries. It won't be juried. It'll just be a big open call, so we can do a big gallery full of really interesting work of what we all created during this time. So yeah, so when we have the information, I'll share that in the chat, and I'll let you guys know. So yeah.
Cool.
We are preparing to have Denver's first socially distanced rock and roll concert on our flat rooftop tomorrow night.
Ooh.
And we're not going to be doing it's not really for streaming. It's really for the neighborhood. And the only way we figured out how to do it was to play in the middle of the roof, not the edge of the roof. So it's not like a YouTube video or a Tribe Called Quest video, if you know what I mean. It's actually only the people in their high rises can get the concert. And it's 30 minutes long, and that's it. And it's broken down before the cops show up is basically the idea. But even the band is going to be socially distanced because we have the entire block of roofs at our availability. And so it's not just our roof. It's actually the 4 roofs of the 4 buildings along our block that we have access to. And we're the only people with roof access, so it's very safe.
Are you going to live stream it, Rick?
I think we're gonna do something, but I'm basically having a miniature aneurysm about it. So
Don't do that.
it's so stressful because I'm giving them gloves as they walk into our space, and then they walk up the stairs with their amps and shit, and then they put it all there, and then if they go to the bathroom, they have to take their gloves off and put on new gloves and wash their hands, and I've got one person who's just in charge of safety. And then and the roof itself will have probably no more than 10 people, including the drone operator. And yeah. I think
Someone
that,
asked to see this again. Sorry.
oh, that's fine.
In the chat.
But I do think that it's like everything is very neighborhood centric right now, and I think it's really great. I love the snail mail thing, to be honest. It's like I'm super envious that I haven't been sending out more snail maily things or letters, but you know, people who get mail from me are sort of generally grateful. But that's a great idea. And the neighborhood thing, man, it's a time to know your neighbors, right?
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, it's great. And I think they finally arrested that father and son that shot that fella in Georgia.
Yeah, I think
Finally
so.
arrested that guy, which it blew my mind that there was some sort of shenanigans around that, some sort of like possibility that was not going to be a thing. It blew my mind that that's where we had gone to, you know.
What happened? I didn't hear about this.
Took way too long.
Yeah, it did.
So a young person was jogging in a neighborhood and was chased and shot by a father and son armed, and you know, there's not much else to say because we're not firsthand witnesses. But anytime it looks like and smells like stand your ground and, you know, fear of black people, and you know, anytime it looks and smells like that, it generally is. And it's not always, there's not always a person at fault. Sometimes it's a system at fault. But ultimately, I believe that, you know, justice is about finding out what is in people's hearts and figuring out whether or not there was some true harm done. And in this case, I think there really was.
And today would have been his 26th birthday, correct?
Mm.
Oh.
So they're doing like socially distanced runs around the country in like support.
It was really amazing to see people use their voice, though, to speak up against it and to see change. It was sad that it had to happen that way, but it was amazing to see a community and many communities come together to make it known. Oh, thank you, Ryan, for sharing that link.
I was going to share a project. It's not my own, but I think it's really, really interesting. Alana Schwartzman of Font Love is doing this New Day, here's the link, New Day paper. And so every week she's collecting quotes from different people, or I think, what's the rule? 10 words or less. You can share a story, 10 words. And then you get it, if you subscribe on Pantheon? Patreon. Sorry. It's Friday. It's Friday for reals?
Okay, Boomer.
Anyway, oh, there's my address for everyone.
It's Learn Day. It's Learn Day, duh.
But it's really neat. I mean,
yeah, I also subscribe to that, and I love getting it in the mail. And I've done a bunch of little COVID-related things because usually I rent in a studio. I'm 20 miles west of Boston, and I rent from a studio in Boston with a Vandercook 4 that I love, so I'm so envious, Ben. And what I have at home is a little tabletop Linus scribe, so I'm working small, but let's see, here are a couple of things. This was, I don't know if you all have seen the Linotype Daily by Dan Wood in Providence, and his year-long project ended, which made me so sad, but so I did a Linus scribe daily. It turned out it's a Linus scribe rarely, but you know, this was right at the beginning of all this when it was announced that basically this this pandemic was going to be treated with thoughts and prayers because the project was being led by our vice president. Anyway, yeah, agony. And then this is a more recent one because I'm lending so many books to friends that I would like to maybe get back someday now that all the libraries are closed. So this I made in hopes that I would get some of those books back. And so it's Ex Libris Pestilentiae from the library, from the books of the plague. And I don't know if you can see this little cut, but
Yes,
I look for cuts of women doing interesting things. I'm not sure this qualifies, but it seemed appropriate under the circumstances. So those are a couple of my COVID things.
Who was it that wanted to talk about Hebrew?
That was Molly Bagansky.
Oh, Molly Bagansky. Well, there was a eBay auction that I bumped into that was ending in 3 hours that didn't have a single bid on it, and it was all Hebrew, and I freaked out and just bought it. So if
Meredith is also interested in Hebrew.
it's like, oh shit, oh God, gotta buy it. Hebrew.
I saw some Hebrew when I was at Don Black's shop 3 years ago, wood type. So it's probably still there.
I looked through all of Don Black's wood type that's on his website, and it's not in that.
Yeah, that
might have to contact. I mean, obviously Craig's not here, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Albert maybe might still
Yeah. I was told to contact Albert.
Yeah.
I sent an email. I just haven't heard back yet. I'll try by phone.
be. Yeah, try calling.
Right on.
I love this little thread that's gone through all the ham hangs and that we keep like touching on, like, who needed that type? What's the name of that? Hey, Hebrew.
I love that there's always new shit to buy.
New old shit to buy.
Yeah, who was blowing up the high bids wins auctions yesterday? That stuff was going for absurd amounts of money.
I paid an absurd amount of money for one thing, but there were some cheap things too. But I would have killed. I did it. I didn't kill, but for that 72-point metal Bodoni condensed, oh my God, I just loved it. So I paid way too much for it.
I got a really cute little toy press from that auction.
I saw that. It was beautiful.
They were so adorable.
Brad, why are you mixing so much ink?
Where's your puppy?
And that's a good question. Old
the Cincinnati project. Yeah, so when I'm doing this project, it's going to be, so many prints that I don't want to have to mix again. And I have already done this twice. So I learned my lesson and I'm mixing more this time.
Yeah, never again, Brad. Never again. I mean, whatever.
I mean, it takes Brad 45 minutes to mix the perfect yellow, so I get it.
Yeah. People are starting to name colors after that motherfucker. I swear to God.
Man, I'm still smiling about your story with the kid in the window because, as people on here know, when I smile at all the women jogging by, they think I'm a creep.
Jason, you are a creep.
I mean, understandable.
They're not wrong. I don't even
Come on,
know.
Come on.
Have you looked at a mirror lately?
It's the hair, Jason.
Ouch.
Clean up a little bit, dude. Don't scare so many people.
I like when ham hang turns into a roast.
I hear my mom calling me. I gotta go.
50 minutes in.
A ham roast. Oh, Aaron. That's a dad joke. You've been hanging out with Scott too long.
He tells better jokes than me. Macy's on here. We were talking about residencies last time. Would she want to talk about? I just saw the call for 2021.
Totally. I'm going to talk, though, I think in 2 weeks, so I can tell more then. When am I? I think I'm talking on the 22nd or something. But yeah, I run In Cahoots residency. It's for letterpress, printmaking, and book arts and writing. We have a new call for applications due June 1st. So we're thinking positive about 2021. The call is for January to June 2021. We accept applications twice a year. Right now we're very, very empty, but our first resident is coming back for a social distancing residency on May 18th. So one more week and we get to be back in business. So that's really exciting. But I'm going to talk on this Hamilton Hang more in 2 weeks, so I won't.
I also want to say that Macy and I went to undergrad together.
Yeah.
At WashU.
Many moons ago, and neither of us
use type then because they didn't have any.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah.
And so I was, after college, I started working in design and advertising, and like took this letterpress class, an evening class at this college, and like, oh, I fell in love. It's like, oh, I'd love to do this, and found out they had a grad school program, but I knew nothing about letterpress, nothing about book arts. And the only person I know that was doing it was Macy. So I sent her an email, and we hadn't really been talking. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I see that you're doing book arts. Like, what is this? What do I look for in grad programs? And
did I write back?
You did.
Oh, good.
You were like,
too long ago. Yeah.
You know, look at who's teaching, think about who you want to study with, and all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. And it was like, you know, I was working, I was engaged at the time, about to get married. And I was like, there's a program in the town that I live in now, and I don't have to move, so I'm just going to go to Columbia. So,
awesome. Well, good choice. That's a pretty
yeah,
awesome.
It worked out great. But I remember, yeah, like you helped me kind of get my bearings a little bit when I was deciding on where to go to school. So thank you.
Cool. I'm so glad, Ben. I mean, that was, so we went to Wash U. What did you study? Did you study illustration?
I was graphic design, and you were illustration,
graphic
right?
design. I was illustration and printmaking, yeah. And then at that point, they didn't allow double majors. And I remember on my whatever it's called, diploma, they were like, okay, you have to choose one major. You cannot have two. And I'm like, but I'm a double major. And I liked them both equally. But in that moment, I was like, okay, I choose printmaking. And I have to say that like something in me like took me in that direction ever since, which is kind of funny.
That's so cool.
But how weird that they wouldn't allow double majors. And now it's like everyone's triple majoring, and like most schools want that, you know, so it's just interesting switch since 1994. Not to date us, Ben, but yeah. Funny.
That's awesome.
Hey, Ben, someone wants to say hi real quick.
Hello.
Oh, hey.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
What's up with school?
Well, my last day of high school kind of is like next Tuesday.
Okay.
Good for you. Congratulations.
Thank you. And I'm going to RISD next year.
Congratulations.
That's awesome.
Wow, fantastic.
East Coast, huh?
Yeah.
Are you excited? I mean, everything's so weird now. Are you excited about it or what?
Yeah, I'm excited. It's like, I don't know what's really gonna happen. Like RISD hasn't really said anything about what fall looks like. Most colleges haven't, so it's a little up in the air. But I have options. Like there's deferral if I choose to, and just keep on doing whatever, making art, and then go next year. Or if they end up saying it's gonna be somewhat normal, and I can also go in the fall.
Okay, she's got to go.
Okay, bye.